Well, squirrels seem to be very, very busy these days. They're constantly scurrying around, even more than usual. Well, here with me in studio to explain what the heck is going on is Bill Dowd. Bill is founder and CEO of Skedaddle, Humane Wildlife Control. It's a national company with franchises throughout the province. Bill, hi there and welcome.
Hi there. Thanks for having me on. It's exciting times.
I'm so glad you were able to come in and join us in person. This has got everybody talking in the newsroom, especially dog owners. Why are squirrels so busy right now?
Well, this is the time of year when the second litter of the year have been born. So the population is at its highest right now. We're still enjoying some beautiful days out there. So people are outside enjoying the outdoors, and the squirrel population is at its highest of any time throughout the calendar year.
Well, what exactly are they doing, though?
Well, this time of year, they're looking for attic spaces or chimneys or wall cavities to live, to survive the cooler winter temperatures. But that's how they're flourishing in all urban centers across Canada, not just Vancouver. We see just as many squirrels in Halifax, Ottawa, Montreal. Every single city in Canada and the U.S. is inundated with squirrels.
Well, I put out the call to some of our listeners if they had questions about squirrel behavior that they're observing. Here's a question. Why are they chasing each other around and around, up and down trees? They don't seem to be fighting. I don't see any signs of mating, although maybe they're just more private about that.
They're a little more private than that. But when you see squirrels running around, chasing each other, running around and around a tree trunk, those are squirrels mating. Or the male is getting ready to mate with the female. She may not be ready just yet. So that's that behavior, which means in 45 days would be newborn baby squirrels. Okay.
Now, you talked about looking for attic space or placing walls. Don't they make little holes in trees or roots or that type of thing?
They do, but to survive in a more urban environment or suburban area, the safety and security of an attic is more enticing to them. But they will nest in trees, and typically we'll see that in the fall season when the leaves fall. You might see a big ball, maybe the size of two basketballs, in a tree, and that's a squirrel nest.
Okay, and what exactly are they foraging for right now?
Well, they're eating nuts, and they'll even eat pizza. There's a famous photo of a squirrel in New York City running around with a pizza in its mouth. So, nuts and twigs and, seeds and, all that type of thing is they'll eat. But they're getting more and more like the perfect urban animal, the raccoon, eating everything and anything.
Oh, I see. So that's just a result of living in an urban atmosphere. All right. So once they gather these, whether they're seeds or nuts or what do they do with them?
Well, typically they're just eating them, but there is one squirrel that is very determined. It's the American red squirrel, which we have here in Vancouver, and they'll bring food sources such as pine cones and whatnot into the attic space, and we'll sometimes take out 4 or 5 green garbage bags full of pine cones that the squirrels are bringing in there, and they're rodents, so it means their teeth are constantly growing, so they need to chew to keep them at proper length. Chewing electrical wiring, you get old dried pine cones in there. That's a recipe for disaster with a fire. 4 or 5 giant garbage bags full of pine cones you've taken out? That and the mold and mildew and odor. So when they're in your attic, you definitely want them out. Well, any animal, but they're more dangerous because of that versus the typical gray and black ones we see in our cities, which don't bring food sources into an attic space. I see. Oh, here's another question from a listener. Vivian writes in, do they remember where they've hidden their food or their nuts? And if so, how? Great question. Typically they do, but there are on occasions where they kind of forget where they are, and they'll just look for other food sources out there. And that's why their populations keep growing in numbers every single year, because we provide them with the food sources and we provide them with the habitat, meaning our attics, our chimneys, our walls, that type of thing. So once a squirrel has kind of foraged and maybe put things away in one location, is it kind of up for grabs? I mean, are there squirrel raids? Sometimes there could be some fights over some food, just like us humans. Kids, someone gets more spaghetti than somebody else. But yeah, they will, have a little argument, so to speak, over where their nuts or who planted that nut and who wants it back. Okay, and you mentioned the different species of squirrels. Can you tell us more about the differences or different
differences in behavior between them?
Well, all behavior is pretty much similar. The American red squirrel is a tinier squirrel. A lot of people mistake it for a chipmunk. It's got more of a red color to it. The eastern gray, those are the gray and black ones that we have. There's the same species, just different hair color, so to speak. And then also in British Columbia, you have the Douglas squirrel, which is not as common. It's kind of like an orange underbelly, but they're more on the outskirts of the city limits, though there are small pockets that we're seeing. Our franchise here in Vancouver and Victoria are seeing them in our city limits as well.
Do the different species interact?
Not really, no. In fact, in Britain, the American red squirrel is kind of dominating and basically pushing out all these gray squirrels. So they kind of keep to their own. But the red squirrel is tiny, tenacious, very determined to get back in. They can get an opening the size of a golf ball, and they'll get in at roof level, ground level. Doesn't take much, but they'll get in. Okay.
So what kinds of calls do you usually get? You and your company and your franchises involving squirrels?
Yeah, our franchise normally, especially since COVID, more and more people, hybrid working, maybe they're working at home 2 or 3 days a week. They're more inclined to hear that noise because they're hearing those animals go up and down the walls or in the attic, and they're saying, oh, I got to deal with something because, these animals are going to destroy your biggest investment of your life, your home.
Okay, so then what do you do? I mean, you pride yourself in humane removal of animals like squirrels. Right. What is the approach?
We're kind of very unique where we don't trap and relocate because there's so many animals in our city limits, you're never going to get rid of them there. Those days are gone. We've missed that opportunity. So what we'll focus on is in baby season, we'll go in that attic space, pick up those babies, take them on the outside, reunite them with the mother in our baby reunion box. But more importantly, with any wildlife problem, we animal-proof that structure, give that homeowner a lifetime guarantee they're never going to have a problem with squirrels again. And that's the way to harmonize and live with animals in our city limits.
Now, any advice for dog owners when their dogs go chasing those squirrels?
Well, I've been bitten by a few squirrels, so you want to be very cautious. Keep your dog on a short leash and don't let it run after the squirrel. Those squirrels are pretty fast, pretty acrobatic. Typically, they'll get away, but you just don't want to have that little fight going on.
Bill, this has been so informative and so timely. We'll be thinking about this conversation when we watch those squirrels running around and foraging over the next little while. Thanks for coming in.
Great. Thanks for having me.